And let's welcome in our powerhouse panel. We've got a great panel today. We start with, from Project 21 National Advisory Board member and podcaster Christopher Arps from News Talk St. Louis News Analysis Opinion. Chris, good morning. Good to see you.
That's a long name.
Yeah. Well, I saw your background there, and I had to say it. I used to be in radio myself, as you know. We're also welcoming in former Deputy Press Secretary under President Trump and Newsmax contributor Hogan Gidley. Panel, great to have you on. Hogan, good to see you. Let's start with you. You were there. You traveled with the former president, by the way, who warned NATO, and he was criticized by the left for calling out NATO. He said, NATO, you've got to be prepared. If you do business with bad people, bad things are going to happen to you. They are happening right now. He said you need to do more to arm yourselves. And here we are, literally 15, 16 months later, Joe Biden's in the Oval Office. Today, he's supposed to start speaking around 9:15 our time in New York. Will this be historic, or will this be, like what we've seen over the last 15 plus months, anticlimactic when it comes to another Joe Biden opportunity?
Well, I mean, look, he has the chance to make it historic. He has the chance for the United States of America to reassert its place of leadership around the globe. To this point, he obviously has failed at that. This is a very interesting meeting. Of course, I was at NATO many times with the President of the United States, walking the halls that they're walking today. It is a massive building, a massive venue. And what I noticed there was the international press, the international leaders. The world is watching, and they are waiting for the speaking from government officials from this country to occur. And the world right now is watching for the United States. And what we've seen to this point, obviously, has been some humanitarian aid. There's a big debate over defensive weaponry versus offensive weaponry. But these leaders coming together have a real chance to make an impact here and say once and for all, here's what we're going to do collectively. And I would watch for them to make comments to some degree about next moves by Vladimir Putin and potentially even some red line talk.
Red lines,
because
please.
We don't think it's going to be nuclear weapons. We do think, however, there could be a problem with chemical weapons, which is something Vladimir Putin has shown a propensity to use in the past. So it is a real big opportunity for the United States, but also for the world.
Allison, we keep hearing about chemical weapons. We keep hearing about nuclear weapons. They call this an emergency meeting. This is day number 29. Today marks 1 month since the invasion began on February the 24th. If it was an emergency meeting, it could have happened before the invasion. Putin started amassing troops. This buildup started in March of 2021, a year ago. The emergency meeting literally could have happened anytime between then and now. Why now? Is this too late?
Well, I hope it's not too late, but you're right. An emergency meeting, they could have done this a year ago. We saw troops were building up on the border, and yet the Biden administration did nothing. Look, this is a time now where NATO needs to come together, which we've seen, but there's still companies from France that are in Russia. So I think that every country that's part of NATO needs to come on and be on the same page. But you're right, those red lines are, everybody looks at the United States, right, as the strong country. And so President Biden needs to show that. I hear he's going to take these conversations behind closed doors. So I don't know if we'll actually get to hear what he's going to say. But this is a very important meeting, and everybody needs to come together, and we need to show strength. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Look, this experiment in democracy that's no longer an experiment, I think you can call the American experiment a success story. 240 years running, we fought a civil war to secure the rights that every man was created equally in the Declaration of Independence, not in the Constitution. That's why when Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address, 272 words, he talked about the Declaration of Independence. We are the symbol of democracy. Joe Biden is the leader of the free world, at least for right now. Chris, yesterday Vladimir Putin talked about how Russia will continue to supply oil to the world, saying that in anticipation of today's big meeting between NATO leaders. Take a listen, then we'll get some reaction.
At the same time, I want to separately emphasize that Russia will continue, by all means, to supply natural gas in accordance with the volumes and prices according to the pricing principles fixed in the contracts concluded earlier. Unlike some colleagues, we value our business reputation as a reliable partner and supplier.
Chris, to me, that's a not-so-veiled threat that he will shut down Nord Stream 1 if NATO does something that he doesn't like. So my question today, when it comes to sanctions and deliverables at a meeting and a speech like President Biden's going to deliver today, how effective can these sanctions be when half of the EU relies on Russia for oil? Germany gets 40% of their energy from Russia.
Exactly. And that is what the president is supposed to go over to Europe and speak to the NATO leaders about making Europe more or less energy dependent on Russia. It's ironic that the president is going to be talking about that when we've shut down our Keystone pipeline here, and we've basically shut down our natural gas and oil production. Oil is a big factor in Russia's economy, and I think Putin saying that yesterday shows that he needs that money to keep this war going.
And can I just point out, Chris is absolutely right here. It's all about energy at this point. We've been saying that for a long time. The juxtaposition of our president saying it's okay for other nations to produce it more dirty, more expensively, but we can't is absolutely ridiculous. But I will tell you, at NATO, when President Trump was mocked and derided for all the times he pointed, don't lie down with dogs, you're going to come up with fleas.
Yeah.
Privately, we had Stoltenberg telling us, hey, thanks so much also for making other countries pay their share into NATO, 2% of GDP. No one else was doing it. It was Donald Trump who forced billions to come into that organization. And now people are looking around going, wow, that kind of leadership is something I think is desperately missed.
Well, the left derided President Trump for calling out NATO. And President Trump did, he's a bombastic guy. He came in gangbusters when he was elected. But one of the first things he did was call out NATO and the EU. And he was right. Yeah. He was right. There are 100,000 U.S. troops stationed in Europe right now, and they are building up troops in Poland and other countries on Russia's western flank. That should scare every single American.
Yeah, Rob, that's a huge thing. Is he going to go into Poland? But the other thing, too, that will be a topic today is China. That is a big concern. Will they be able to deter China? Because China, we know that they've met with, the president's met with Putin multiple times. Yeah. So they are seeing what's happening to Russia. So this should be a sign that they should, stay out of things because their economy could become Russia's economy. So that's going to be another big talking point today at this meeting.
Such a good point, Allison. I think that there are all sorts of national security implications playing out today. What will China do? What happens to the Iran nuclear deal? Why that's even a topic of conversation, I have no idea. But Chris, I don't think most people are aware of this. I was just made aware of this recently. Ukraine's largest trade partner in 2021 was China. So there are huge implications for what plays out in Ukraine for the international economy, particularly the economy of China.
Yeah, Ukraine is pretty much the breadbasket of Europe, they tell me. A big part of their wheat exports go around the world. China has 2 billion people, and so they need that wheat, they need that bread, and so that's why they are big customers of theirs.
Hogan, what are the red lines? Chemical weapons, we keep hearing about those. I mean, nuclear weapons, my God, we're talking about nuclear weapons. And then people say, well, they're just tactical. They're the smaller nuclear weapons. Look, there have got to be clear red lines. Otherwise, the book that I read to my 3-year-old every week, Give a Mouse a Cookie, this is going to go on and on and on unless somebody stops Vladimir Putin and keeps giving him milk. Yeah,
look, I think chemical weapons are an issue. That's something that Russia has used in the past. I think the Americans our representation over there understands that. So does the world. There are a lot of geopolitics here that are quite interesting, though, if you look around, and we touched on it here in this panel already. Because it's pretty interesting that the president of the United States is telling Vladimir Putin don't move forward at all, but he's using Russia to negotiate behind the scenes with Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Obviously, China is a looming threat that is on our doorstep right now that Joe Biden ignored for a long time. That's problematic, too. And when we used to have good relationships with the Middle East, for example, on energy production, we did that rallying around a common enemy that's the world's largest state sponsor of terror, and that's Iran. Right. Now, with the United States embracing Iran, it's pushing Saudi Arabia into the arms of another political foe, a geopolitical foe, and that's China. The whole thing is fraught with all types of problems. It's going to be interesting to see if we come back with any solutions. Good points, panel. We'll pick this back up top of the hour. Again, they're 5 hours ahead of us. Joe Biden expected to speak about 9:15 our time here on the East Coast. This is historic. No matter how you look at it, this is by far the most important speech that Joe Biden, who's been in elected office since 1972, will ever deliver. The world will be watching, and history will judge. This could be a fulcrum point in history right now, today. Vladimir Putin will be watching. As we've said, the president of China, President Xi Jinping, will be watching as well. We will be covering the build-up to his remarks. Then there will be a press conference. He will be traveling to Poland. So a very busy 48 hours. Panel, we'll see you again top of the hour. Chris Arps, Hogan Gidley, thank you.